right, we made it. We're here, baby. Done.
Boom, boom.
We
Already done.
Already done. We're complete. Goodbye. So the three of us, Mohsin, Jonathan, and I, we just completed being roommates for a little over a month here in Mexico. Very transformative time. And we definitely had one or two experience and had a moral of a story or two that we may have internalized.
Yeah, I'm open to chatting about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, we did it.
Most of all, it was fucking fun.
Yeah, most of all, it was very fun.
So fun.
Yeah.
We had a month of doing what we wanted to do every single day for as long as we wanted to do it.
Every day was Saturday.
Every day was Saturday. Every day is Saturday.
Every day is
out
Saturday.
Here anyway.
Todos los días. Sábado.
Yeah, the happiest day of the week is every day.
Yeah, so the three of us, I mean, we've talked about it before. We all started working together. And you know what? I don't care how much you like your job. You're roped into your 40 hours a week. You're 9 to 5, and Friday comes and you got plans and you're done work and you've just spent all your energy and your time and you're like, oh, I don't really know if I want to go out right now. And then whether you must or not, you then wake up on Saturday and you have that finally that one good day. But then, then Sunday comes and then it's like shit. And I think we've been taught that that's just how life has to be. It just has to be that way. I mean, that's just the way most people are, so that's the way it is. And I think when we talk about this stuff, there's just there's a chance that it could come off like we're bragging, look at what we've done. But I think what we're trying to say is that pretty much anyone could do this if they really wanted to, and they could live a more chill lifestyle and live in a place that's more affordable and those kind of things. What would you guys say about that?
Reminds me of Mike Maluski.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned like
Maluski,
that full work week. Mike Maluski was another fixed employee. I remember his first day was the day that Terrence O'Hanlon came to Toronto, and he's a reliability engineering guy, and the Fix was a maintenance management company, a software company, and so he came in to teach us about operations and reliability. That was Mike Maluski's first day, so that's how we met Mike, was through Fix software. And it reminds me of Mike because he talks about because of this work from home revolution, and if you're going to choose to work, the cool thing about it is if you decide to work remote like what we're doing, you can literally work with the people that you want to spend time with. Yeah. And that's super cool. It's like, if my work week, I'm going to spend time with anybody, why not spend the most amount of time with the people that I want to enjoy my life with? Yeah. And I think that's really powerful. Yeah. Not having to choose a specific office and choosing wherever you want to work with and whoever you want to work with. Yeah. And that reminds me of you, because Gabriel's always saying, Ian's always saying, is like, I'm going to do what I want, but the other key is who I want to do that with. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've been waking up. We all have pretty much different sleep schedules. These guys are definitely earlier risers than I am. But pretty much what we've been doing is, I've been waking up. We got coffees here. Cheers. Yo, we're in unison, boys. Cheers. And we made it. We made it. And basically, I mean, from my perspective, I've been waking up, meditating, drinking coffee, reading the books that I want to read, exercising. We've been going to the beach, getting strong, and you can pretty much feeling good. Yeah. And one of the authors I kind of rehashed was Marcus Aurelius. I'm paraphrasing, and he just talked about how little is necessary to live a happy life. And I think we get really caught up with the Joneses or the Kardashians, so to speak, and we think we need to flex at a certain level, as Mohsin flexes on the canvas. You look good, dude. So what are the things you've done in the last month, Mohsin, is you started Deep House Bangers, which is a YouTube channel. If you want to explain context.
Yeah, well, it was
big for us.
So what I've done is over the last couple of weeks that I've been here, over the last month, for about 2 weeks straight, I posted YouTube songs that I loved with a video edit that I did or a still image. And what was cool about that is that I had enough space and time to actually pursue something that was really cool to me, that I like to do anyway, which is listen to songs and share songs with my friends that I think are really cool and new and up and coming.
Found so many good songs to you, man.
And thank you, man. And then we got to jam out to those songs, and I got to share it with other people, and I got to learn so many things. So one of the principles of doing that task was There were two. One of them was do it every day. So for 2 weeks straight, I did it every single day, and it was nice to get committed to something. But the other side of it was do it every day, but also make sure that you learn one new thing every day and apply that new thing.
So big.
And compound it against the things that you learned from the previous days.
Massive.
So each day you're making it better and better, and you're learning more and more. And I got to learn about YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I learned about all of these things and video editing on iMovie that I never would have pursued learning otherwise. So it's like, well, actually, you can learn so much just pursuing the things that you actually want to do. Not necessarily that they'll always monetize for you, of course, but it's just
Follow your bliss.
Do I care that I monetize off it? Of course not. I had 2 weeks doing something that I had fun with. It was awesome. And I would apply that kind of same sort of lifestyle and those same kind of principles to the other things that I pursue in life.
Yeah. I think what you're talking about is in kind of from a more meta level, abstract level. Happiness is having your thoughts, words, and actions in alignment. And what we've kind of cultivated in this like incubator of this trio here, kind of doing the things that we want, where we had certain thoughts, values, ideals, visions for the things that we wanted to do. And we vocalized and we communicated to ourselves with the self-dialogue, but then also with each other and our friends and our family. Yeah. And I remember Jonathan and I, we decided to stay in a resort when we were in Cancun, and then finally FaceTimed Mohsin, and we narrowed out all the details. We talked about what we wanted, what we were looking for. It turned out we were in alignment, so he met us here in Playa del Carmen. So we had the thoughts, we had the words, and then following that is the actions. Mohsin booked the ticket. We booked a Airbnb, which feels like home. Here in Playa del Carmen. Yeah, so this is our 20th. This is our 20th night within this current
Just in Playa del Carmen, 3 weeks here and 1 week in Tulum, and a couple more days here earlier when I got here. Yeah. So I've been here for about a month. Holy shit. I think it would be really helpful to like break this down to people on a very practical sense. Like, yo, here's the dollars and cents, and let me help this make sense for you.
Really, really briefly before you start, one last thing on the abstract idea before it comes in here to like the practical. You can actually do this. Yeah. Because that's where most is going. You could do this too if you wanted to.
Let me break it down for you.
Gabriel, Iain mentioned this idea of like the thoughts, words, and actions being in alignment. It reminds me of Landmark, where it was a personal development program we did, and they talked about how possibility exists in other people's listening. So one of the challenges to manifesting the things you want is we have thoughts of things we want to do, but the vocalization doesn't happen. Yeah. So creating friendships and communities where you can go and share the things that you fucking are dreaming of doing is where the listening can create possibility, and then you can actually go take action on those things.
Yeah, and what I'll say in terms of, what I'm about to say doesn't apply to all situations, but oftentimes I think you will find that when you actually take that leap of faith, whatever you want to call it, and do the actions that you've been thinking and deliberating on for so long, you'll realize how much easier and even more attainable they were than you even thought they were. I mean, Jonathan and I had planned to do this world travel for more than a year, kind of talked about it loosely for a couple of years, and seriously started planning it for months. And then it got down to booking the flights and booking the Airbnb, and it took, we're talking like 5, 10, 30 minutes, less than an hour, and then we have the tickets, we have the Airbnb, we're sitting there, we're like,
I guess we're
going. Is that it? Like, it's so anticlimactic. Yeah. But I think where the power is in that is realizing the gap between where you are in your life right now and then where you and what you want to be doing, which Mohsin is about to enlighten us on a more practical aspect. Totally, yeah. The gap between the life that you're currently living and the life you want to live is extremely, way smaller than you think it is.
I agree. You've mentioned this multiple times in the trip. It's like, I could have done this a long time ago.
Yeah, and that's the crazy part is like, well, what did I realize about this whole experience? And then I'll get to the dollars and cents of it too. It's like, man, I actually made it. I actually made it in life. And it's like, I thought I'd make it in, 10 years from now or 5 years from now.
One day you'll get there.
Lots of money, lots and lots of money, absolutely carefree, completely passive income. And it's like, well, hello. What would I actually would do now? Let's for a second skip fast forward to that point. What would I actually do when I had that X amount of money? Well, wouldn't I fucking love traveling with my friends
Yeah.
in Mexico, wouldn't that be an absolutely amazing experience? Yeah, I would love to do that then. Now I get to do it now. So it's just like, well, you don't actually have to wait for that arbitrary amount of money that you've set for yourself that, by the way, doesn't feel like any much more than what you had before. You know what I mean? What I have now in terms of money I had before.
Basically
and it's like,
the same.
I didn't realize that I could have this type of experience now, actually. And so let's go into the dollars and cents of it. What is this experience and how much does it cost? Well, to be in here in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, you could live here. Your living expenses
Beach
could
town,
be about,
by the way.
Beach town, 10-15 minutes to the beach.
Like
if
a
not,
king.
just a little bit longer in terms of walk.
Going to restaurants every day.
Taxis that cost, $3
more
to
meal prep.
$5. You don't ever have to make your own meals because the meals are that cheap. Sure, go ahead and buy groceries if you want. Otherwise, meals are
I haven't cooked once in
$5,
Mexico.
$10 for a really nice meal. And this is Canadian dollars. If you're talking US dollars, you're living like a king for 15 USD. And yeah, in terms of the whole month, I probably spent $1,500 here, and that's like living completely lavishly. You know what I mean?
More so than you're used to, because we know you're
so,
you're a tiny bit frugal.
I'm kind of a frugal guy when I, back home and stuff.
You feel like freedom here, though.
Yeah, here like I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry at all. So in terms of money, it just made me realize, like, man, I'm actually doing the things that I would want to do if I were quite a bit wealthier, and I'm doing it now. So it makes me rethink, well, what is my perception of identity and wealth? Is it like, oh, Mohsin is only successful once he has multiple properties and passive income coming
and then you can start living.
Oh.
And then that's
exactly.
when the life, by the way,
once the cash flow
and
comes,
it's this pushing off of, like, this isn't life right now. It's this general underlining sense subconsciously of, this isn't the life yet, this is just the preparatory stage. We're getting ready.
So
Life's
good.
about to start. It's right around the corner, but it hasn't started yet. And once you realize it is, and you don't have to wait till all of the circumstances are so congenial and in your favor, that you can just start. I mean, as I said, Jonathan and I have been talking about doing this for a long time. And I remember one day I was having like a boring day, and I started fantasizing about this trip, this wonderful trip we were gonna do. And I thought to myself, oh, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna wake up, and then I'll be able to meditate, and I'll be able to read, and I'll be able to maybe do some exercises, and I'll be able to just go around and hang out, the certain things that I wanted to do, interested.
Yeah.
And then I was sitting there, and I thought I could do that now. What am I waiting for? There's some sort of fetishization of the future that we all kind of co-sign on.
You really lived into that this summer. Before we came on this trip, you were already doing the things you wanted to do. So that was fun to see. You in the backyard reading your book every morning. It was good.
What's the premise for this, right? Like, how did that happen, and how did these realizations happen? What actually happened before these realizations, or what caused these realizations? Well, what were you doing? Well, we were all trying new things.
Yeah.
We were trying a different way of living that we had not tried before. And now that we've tried this different way of living, we gave it the chance, we built enough courage, we've said, fuck it, and we were brave enough to actually just do something a little bit different than perhaps other people are doing, and what we were taught to do, and what we saw around us. And because we were willing to take that chance and that risk, we saw the other side of it, and we were greatly benefited because of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now we live in this reality where we realize, well, traveling for real cheap is actually completely possible.
It's on the table.
Yeah, it's on the table. And
It wasn't
traveling
even
even during COVID is completely possible. So it just opens up a new reality to me, and it makes me realize, well, the foundation of that new reality was created upon having enough time, energy, courage, and a little bit of money to try something new. So what should I do with my life? Well, I should probably try to put myself in another position where I have time, money, freedom, hopefully some energy, hopefully some friends or my girlfriend, and we can actually do new things together and live a different life than we thought was possible. And then, once we've gotten good enough at understanding, wow, what are the types of lifestyles that bring us so much joy? Well, then we can actually double down on that lifestyle and really choose it as a more permanent measure rather than settling for the first few things that you see in reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's like, go out there and explore,
I think
because you really don't know.
Super valuable, man.
You're talking about
talking our language.
exploration, talking about
that's been a big theme.
Experimentation, trying new things, and talking about unturning different stones and seeing what's underneath, and essentially trying things that you haven't done before. For on one hand, to see if there's the external success and see if it actually works, if you have some sort of
maybe you got a knack for it,
talent and it goes for it, while also keeping a close eye on, does it actually stir something in your heart internally? Is it congruent and in alignment with your values and what you want to be doing? And then it seems so straightforward, but find out a way to do more of what you like doing and less of what you don't like doing. And part of finding out the way you like it, what you like doing, is by trying things that you have not tried before.
You'll find things you won't like, but that'll help create the contrast for knowing that, hey, that thing I actually did like because this thing sucks.
You live in this wonderful, curious state of mind where you're just on the cusp of finding the next thing you love, and you're holding your breath like, this next new thing, I might love it. And then when you do, it's like, oh my God, I found something I love. And that was the feeling of being here. And for example, the feeling of me discovering snowboarding, or me discovering watching basketball with my friends. Those were absolutely amazing things that I now carry out throughout my life. Like, those things bring me so much joy.
One thing you reminded me of is like the theme of having energy.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned, we've talked a lot about doing new things, trying on new things, unturning those stones. And we talked about how being bold and having courage has some prerequisites. It's like, it's really challenging to try something new, and it's really challenging to be bold. I know that's been the case for myself when I don't have the energy.
Yeah.
When like life seems insurmountable because I need more sleep, or I haven't been exercising and I've been eating shitty.
So
we've seen that so many times on this trip.
So now what does that mean, right? Like what does that lesson tell you? It's like, well, I do need energy, and it's like, where does this energy come from? And
I know.
And if more of my good days are those days where I have more energy, well, then perhaps I should live more of my days with more energy. And then, well, what do I need to do that? And for me, it's, for example, been meditation and journaling and running in the mornings and being grateful. And for you guys, I know it's for you, it's reading and
see so many
having your sleep. Fair enough. Like have as much sleep as you need. And for you, it's doing your exercises. Wim Hof, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, discover the things that bring you energy, because if you do that, then you'll have the energy and the courage to actually experience reality to its fullest. Otherwise, you're just selling yourself short.
And when you actually find out what you like to do, and you're designing your life around doing the things that you like to do, then regardless of how much money you make, regardless of the external success, it doesn't actually matter. So I think it just comes back to all the philosophy around understanding your nature and living within it, and deciding, I'm going to discover who I am, who I actually am, my true nature. I'm going to live in congruency with that, and then I'm going to surrender to whatever the results of that are going to be. So if I live fully 100% congruently within my nature, then I surrender to if I make $50,000 a year or $5 million a year. I surrender to, I spend this much time in solitude and this much time with people. I spend this much time working and this much time in leisure. This much time doing mobility exercises, anything, all of it. Just surrender to that which is actually you.
Yeah, there's an element of listening.
Yes.
Right? Pay attention. Listen.
Omens,
what is it? What am I saying to myself? What am I creating the space? When you mentioned, like, what does that mean when you talk about generating energy? The thing it reminds me of is what Gabriel, what you posted on your Instagram last night, and you mentioned this idea of like, you have a responsibility to take care of yourself first.
Yeah. And
it reminds me of just like the old analogy of being on an airplane. The turbulence comes, and the oxygen masks drop, and they say put yours on first to take care of yourself, because otherwise other people can't lean on you. Otherwise you can't be a pillar for other people. And so when it comes to like thinking about all the great adventures we want to go on, it's like, well, do I take care of myself and prioritize my self-care to the point where those things are possible?
Yeah.
And like, if we hadn't been, then we wouldn't be making this podcast, because this is a dream.
Yeah.
It's a dream come true to do this with y'all.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Respect, man.
This is the thoughts, words, and actions in alignment. We're doing the thing that we wanted to do, and then surrendering to the results of whatever that's going to be. So regardless of the fact that this laptop's on top of a protein container and the microphone's inside of a cup and we're drinking Nescafe, then it doesn't actually matter. Whatever it's going to be is what it's going to be. Yeah. And I think just the surrender part is huge.
We can go even further than this, and I think there's a great opportunity for all of us to share, because like we're talking about like trivial things like, you know, we got protein powder holding the camera and things like that, but some real adversity, if you look at it from an outside perspective, adversity is of course relative, but from a, you know, adversity perspective, like it hasn't been all sunshines and rainbows out here. And I think we've got an interesting story to share about some lessons we learned from some real challenges we experienced. I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So there's two. So the first one is Jonathan, Mohsin, and I were in Whistler, earlier this year.
Totally.
And we went downhill mountain biking, and on the first ride down the hill, I fell and separated my shoulder, and I'm gonna have a bump to the day that I die.
That's so funny.
So as to never let me live it down and never let me forget.
Harsh.
And the trail was literally called Easy Does It.
And when it happened,
bullshit. It wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
So fucking.
And with that, it is a great lesson for me to accept what is, to stop resisting how I would like things to be, and accept them where they are. And once I had my pity party and I allowed myself to actually be present, I said, okay, what are the things within my control that I can do? And since then, I've been doing mobility exercises for my shoulder, and I turned a negative situation into a positive. And that is really from a standpoint of actually communicating an idea, that's the art of alchemy. The art of alchemy in a non-gold led to gold manner in your real life is to take a negative experience and to become very present and real with it, and actually allow that to catapult you to do something, a habit, an activity, an action that you wouldn't have done before, so that you can go back and then you actually reconcile and vindicate any negative experience that happened in your life. So fast forwarding that to
go ahead. It's only worth mentioning because y'all don't see Gabriel every day, and Mohsin spent the last 30 days, but I've literally spent the last 3 years basically attached to the hip of this dude. Just like we have a lot of mutual friends and interests, and so we end up converging a lot. Roommates that helps totally working with all those things. But for Gabriel, like if you're seeing him now, he injured his shoulder. It could have been like. You can see how that could have snowballed in such a negative route where it happens, and I'm literally just thinking like I feel really bad for this guy because like that fucking sucks.
And I knew as soon as it happened, I'm like, I'm not going to work out for weeks, and it was really months basically.
And what the point I was trying to make is like you're now today when I look at you leaner, stronger, healthier than I've ever seen you since we've known each other.
Yeah.
And so it's just like the total testament to you doing what you preach and
and the doing what you preach is
looking at life in the best possible light
is an interesting place, because when we did our podcast the other day, the big thing that I learned from the last year was that there's nothing external, there's nothing outside that is going to create or take away your lasting joy and fulfillment, and that to cultivate that inner peace is really the kind of the highest ideal, and that once you take care of that, everything will fall into the gridlock from there and play out exactly how it needs to.
I know we got another. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's really nice and dandy to talk about when everything is going well for you.
Easy but not simple.
And it's an abstract concept, and you're like, yeah, that sounds fucking sick.
Simple but not easy.
Simple and easy. We just talked about how cheap it is to live here, and it probably was pretty cheap for Jonathan and Mohsin to live here for this month, but it turns out it was not going to be cheap for me. Last night, last night they got you, dude. Yeah, we got back from a whole bunch of snorkeling.
Super fun.
Snorkeling all day, and then we got
mesmerized
back.
by that.
And it's around 3 a.m. Jonathan and I we have, there's a couple beds. We're in our bed in the one room, Mohsin's in the other room. And I'm fast asleep. I think Jonathan's still awake, reading.
Yeah, I was writing and reading.
Reading, and then what happened from there, man?
It's still developing in my mind the picture of what happened. But I remember Mohsin going to bed first. Mohsin saying, "Hey guys, I'm tapped out. I'm going to bed."
So like 11:30.
Like 11:30. Ian and I were sitting at the table, and we had the lights still going. The lights we've been, hanging out and partying with.
Disco lights.
Mohsin brought disco lights. We were just listening to music, hanging out, talking about things we've learned, and enjoying each other's company and hanging out. And I decided to go to bed next. And Ian took his phone and he put it in my face and he said, "Watch this Juice WRLD rap," as like the kind of the last thing we did together. He like every time he actually puts his phone right in my face.
Last YouTube video I watched on that.
last video he watched on that phone. Anyway, he showed me this Juice WRLD clip and I was like, "Cool, man, sounds good, bro." I watched it, went back to the bed. I laid down and I started journaling. I wrote the story about the first time I ever met Mark Castell, and kind of like how cool it was that every year.
Mark Castell, founder of a company that we all worked and met at each other.
Founder of Fix Software, and they just got bought out. So huge, successful tech company in Toronto and Canada, and paved the way for tech for the next couple of years. Over $200 million buyout for that company, so massive. And I was writing about meeting him, and the things I learned from meeting him, the things I learned from Fix. Now my life has literally gotten better every year. Since I showed up at Fix Software. And then I started reading As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Ian finally came into the room. He laid down. I don't know if I was like in and out of sleeping or what I was doing, but I had my book, and at one point the door was open, and who I thought was Ian, just a dark figure because it was in a dark room. The lighting was very low. Who I thought was Ian was moving around the room. And he wasn't using the main flashlight. He was using like the low light of like the front of the phone to look at the ground. And in my mind, the thought I had to myself was, Ian must be really screwed up right now. I was like, what is he doing right now? Is he tripping right now? And I'm like laying in my bed, kind of like I've got my pillow on my chest, and I'm just looking over with the corner of my eye. I'm like, what the hell is Ian doing? And he leaves the room, but the door stays open a little bit. And I could see the lights on in the hallway, and I didn't know if Mohsin was joining him or what the issue was. But it's about 3 a.m. at this point. And I'm like genuinely concerned, because I'm like, what the hell's going on with Ian? And the figure starts coming back, and something about the way that they were walking, or something the way they're moving, did not look like you. And like you must have been so hammered if you were walking that way.
It wasn't me.
This guy walks with swag, and he walks back in, and he looks over in the closet area, and then looks down towards my bed, and he comes right over to my bed. And I'm laying there on my back like, what the hell is going on? And the way the light hit his face, I said to myself, it's not Ian. And a man was in our house.
Scary, man.
And he fucking broke into this house. And I'm laying there and he's right there. And I mean, like, the only instinct I had was to tell him to leave. And so I said, "Sir, please get out. You need to leave now. Please leave." And I've heard you say that before in like confrontational situations. I was like, "You need to leave. Please leave now." I felt like if I got up, then I didn't know if he had a weapon.
Escalated or something,
So I just laid there and I said, "Please leave." And he like kind of like hesitated for a second, but then he left the room. And instantly I was on Ian and I was like, "Bro, someone is in this house right now." And that's when I woke you up.
Yeah, and they woke me up. I looked for my glasses, couldn't find them. We went out. By the time we went back to the kitchen, we looked apprehensively, but he wasn't even there. The guy, my phone was right beside me while I was sleeping in my bed, and the phone was gone. So my iPhone, he took my laptop, my MacBook Air. He, honest criminal, I'll give it to him. He had my wallet, whether it was intentional or not, but he removed the cards from my wallet and took my wallet and all my cash.
What the hell?
And luckily didn't take my passport. Sweet. And then so I don't have a phone, I don't have a laptop. Took all the majority of the money that I have, and then
your pashmina.
He took my birthday gift, my pashmina, so that's gone as well. And so now I was able to get confronted with
which is beautiful,
with seeing if my internal peace would stand up, the conviction of my internal peace would stand up to the test of external challenge through taking away of that which I felt was mine. And I feel really good about the way I've handled the situation, And Jonathan was saying, you
I
handled
proud
it
of
well.
you.
I'm not
Yeah.
worried if you're sure it's a front or something. I'm like, it's not.
Just
I'm pretty
great composure.
I'm cool with it.
Straight up,
I'll
man.
figure it out.
I've seen
I'll
him
get
get more razzled up in like a competitive environment where we're throwing around lighters to catch lighters than he fucking was when the guy broke in and stole all his shit. You know what I'm saying?
So we just got talked about.
It's no big deal.
So Mohsin for a month, $1,500 for me, more like $4,000 or $5,000. But
someone gets the short end of the stick sometimes.
You know what? Lesson learned: keep your doors locked. Just make sure to keep your doors actually locked.
Yep.
Yeah, big lesson learned.
Yeah. So I mean, we're not hurt, so that's good.
Be prepared. Don't be careless.
But yeah, I
pay
mean,
attention.
you don't really. It's like adversity. To the point of bringing this up, it's adversity, and adversity. There's a quote: "Adversity doesn't make the man, but it reveals him to himself."
That's
and
right. Cheers to that.
you don't really know what your values or how you live and respond to things until there's actually something to respond to. So I was happy that this opportunity came up where I was able to respond to it in the best way that I could. And bringing up Marcus Aurelius again, he refers to life as Mother Nature, and the way in which you should live your life is being grateful and happy for everything that she's given to you, and that it's not yours, it's just a rental, and that when she's ready to take it back from you, she doesn't need to rip it away from you, but you give it away willingly, and you offer your neck, so to speak. And I think this was an opportunity to do that. And then in terms of alchemizing the situation, first off, kind of moving forward in terms of just really honing in on this belief and this philosophy and this way I want to live my life. But then also, I was thinking recently about how I was too much time on my phone. So thank you, universe, for taking it away from me.
It'd be great for Ian to not use Instagram for a couple of days.
Yeah,
how great's that?
And then
that'd be great.
And then now,
That's a good idea.
now I'm gonna have to splurge and bite the bullet a bit and to get a new iPhone, so that before this big travel, I'll get a new camera, so I can get some better travel photos and videos. So the process of alchemizing will be an ongoing process through everything that I post from here on out.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the other things we learned from Landmark was you create the stories. There's what happens to you, and then you decide what the story is that you tell yourself.
Yeah.
And one of the fun illusions we had was, why don't we buy each other new phones for Christmas?
Yeah.
And
So
that's a fun one. That's a
That's
good
sweet.
one. That's an easy win, right? We love, we're gonna have great footage, and we're gonna be able to capture memories and capture moments and capture philosophy this year. The only other thing, I don't know where you were taking that, but was I was wondering what Mohsin experienced when that guy came in. I remember
Your side of the old
peeking
story.
down the hallway a little bit further without going all the way around the corner to see what was happening in the kitchen, because I didn't know if he had a weapon, and I knocking on Mohsin's door. Mohsin, get up! Mohsin, get up!
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a crazy experience. Like waking up in the middle of the night, just hearing you, Jonathan, going like, "Mohsin, wake up! Mohsin, wake up! Mohsin, you need to wake up! And sir, you need to leave! Sir, you need to leave!" And I wake up and I'm all groggy, and I get up out of the bed. I open the door, and I only poke my head out, and I turn to the left, and I see you guys poking your head out of your door, and you guys telling me there's a man in the kitchen. And I'm like, what? And I couldn't believe it. I was still groggy.
You're like, my dreams have been answered.
Finally.
Yeah. Praise the Lord. And I couldn't believe it. And then it was over very soon. And
Thank God he
I
left.
poked my head back into my room. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm just trying to wake up here. And then I come back out, and you guys are in the kitchen, and you guys let me know what's going on. There was a man here and everything like that, and I was, holy smokes, man, you handled it way better than I would. Like, the fact that you kept your composure, the fact that you didn't try to fight, like, I don't know what I would have done, man. I've never had to be in that situation, but I would have been quite terrified if a man I didn't know was all up in my face while I'm sleeping, stealing my shit. So
many unknowns in such a vulnerable state.
I literally thought of like 20 different alternative ways to approach
you handled it in the best way.
I was writing in my journal, man. Like, I'm just so grateful all of us are okay. I'm grateful like you guys looked out for me in that moment, that we looked out for each other.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, all of us have our health. It's just a small dent to your finances at the moment, but it's like in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing.
For your composure and your spirituality and for your internal locus of control, like, Could you have any better lessons?
Yeah, so I'll pay $2,000 for some internal growth.
It's a
Not often can you in terms of alchemizing. Not often can you trade in external possessions for internal growth.
It's like being rich versus having wealth. And
and then that's just tapping into the abundance and realize the money's gonna be fine.
No issue.
And that I'll be able to, with a new camera, I'll be able to even communicate and express myself.
Way better.
In a better way. So I think I have a question for you two guys. You guys can answer, whoever feels most confident first, but what's an example in your life of something, of an adversity situation? It could be innocuous or serious that you actually alchemized and turned a negative into a positive.
Mohsin, you feel comfortable with this one?
I mean, I could talk about my career.
Sure.
And it's just like, you know what, this is what we've learned through our philosophy learning this month, is like those positive situations when they do happen and how they happen and how you feel them, well, they never would have felt the way they felt without the negative situation occurring, because then you wouldn't have this relative scale to base your experiences upon. So the negative has to happen, so the bad has to happen for the good to be experienced. And so when I think about like being in my old career as an accountant, for example, well, I experienced so much pain and discomfort there, and so much misalignment in terms of my values, my career, or who I was in terms of my personality, that it caused so much negative emotions. But all of those negative emotions gave me enough energy eventually, rather than pushing me down, they eventually pushed me up. Yeah. And that energy eventually got alchemized into actually taking action to be like, okay, well, no, I seriously need to look for something else. And that launched the trajectory of me trying different things, and having the energy, just like we were talking about before, to be able to do that. That was probably the most significant that I can think of, and that was a while ago.
And that reminds me,
it worked.
Something I've thought about a lot in terms of equating your personal growth to a phoenix, where at a certain point you're gonna combust. So you fail, you hit rock bottom. Expectations were not met, reality became very different than what you thought it was going to be, and things ultimately didn't go the way that you wanted it to. And then if you allow the alchemization process to take place, and you allow that process to burn and flame up and crumble everything that you thought you were, so that you can then reassemble the ashes and the pieces to a new formation that you actually want it to be. Yeah. So that being said, you don't have to look at it that way. You can just let it be a burn up, and then you can allow the pieces to assemble in the natural human tendency without the higher self of conscious thought, and allow it to transform and morph into resentment and bitterness and negative habits. And that's where you have the choice. But you know that by giving up that, you can actually shape that negative experience into a positive one and vindicate it.
And it's like, well, coming back to the anchor of, hey, by the way, you live in an unlimited consciousness in the infinite universe, with infinite potentialities. It's like, if you use that as an anchor, then it becomes easier for you to go through that transformation process of something negative to positive. That's an incredibly powerful anchor to have. And it's important now to have these anchors and these very powerful, empowering anchors of reality, so that when you do go through these situations, the whims of life, the winds of life, whatever, you actually have something to hold you down and be like, this is how I'm going to make sense of the situation, versus to be swept up away in it and to feel so much discomfort in it. Yeah. And where do we learn all of that too? Where do we see those patterns? Well, we see it in the stoicism that all of us are into, into the philosophy that all of us are into, the busting loose of the money game, where we try to feel the pain and to the extent of it, and transform that pain into something empowering instead. So it's a common theme, and we're seeing it actually works. It makes sense to understand how to do this for yourself.
I had an idea that I thought of, which was in exact alignment with what you both were saying, which Rohn has this story about this guy who drove this like really dingy car that he didn't like for so long, and he just drove this shitty car.
I've had it!
And it was like breaking apart and shit. And like one day he got to the point in his life where he's like, I'm never gonna drive this piece of shit car ever again. And he gets a shotgun, and he like takes the 12-gauge shotgun, and he blows the windows out, and he blows the tires out, and he blows the whole thing out, and he's like, nice. And Gabriel said,
and you let it stand there as a testament to the day I said no more. And when people walk by, you see that right there? That's the day I decided to change my life. And by the way, who can do this? Anybody. When can you do it? Whichever day you pick.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
I think it's best to make that clear for people too. It's like, what does that really mean? It's like, well, you are going to have the exact experience of reality that you choose to. So now it becomes about making better decisions in your life. And this is what we were talking about with Mark the other day. It's like, well, you need to keep making better decisions for your life if you want to have a better life. And so keep finding the energy and the curiosity and the experimentation to make these better decisions, because otherwise what are you doing? Well, you're settling.
Sure.
Well, why are you settling for a life full of that's not full of joy? Mm-hmm. It's like, you're putting yourself in your own prison. Hello, you don't need to do that. You can literally just keep learning ways to live a better and better life, and then have ideally a life full of complete joy where you are maximizing the amount of joy that you're experiencing in your life, and you're absolutely minimizing the things that you don't. But it takes some time, and it takes experimentation.
Yeah. Well said, man.
And and that reminds me, like what you said is it's something that we've all kind of learned together, and really this month is it got brought to mind because when you used the word settle, and I think we've kind of touched on this a bit. When we talk about settling in life, it seems like the majority of the time we're talking from almost like a financial perspective in the hustle porn culture of you have this dream of being this like millionaire, billionaire, you can be the best, the number one
influencer,
and then which by the way is fine if that's incongruent with what you want to do. Although I think there's an opportunity not to, it's not, I think we get very all or nothing mentality as humans, so if it's not this like multi-millionaire, balling out, successful person, then you might as well just be exactly within kind of the realm of the regular populace of the herd. But as Mohsin mentioned, it doesn't take that much money. And the amount of people that you talk to where they're like, I'd love to do something like that, but I can't, it's like, yes, you can.
I have two more points to bring up along those notes. It's like, okay, let me get back to you about the practicality of the situation. So the practicality of the situation in terms of like how a life like this costs, like a month out here in Playa del Carmen, for example. Let me break it down to you. This is less than, this is a 4 or 5 hour flight, or one connecting flight. You're in here in a day. A one-way a flight for me cost $170 Canadian. And by the way, that was completely covered by the credit card points I have. So if you just have,
which is like the average person spends on a weekend in drinks in Toronto. Exactly,
which is like so ridiculously reasonable. So to get here was basically free. And then to live here, like what we've lived here on an average in terms of the stay alone, an average of $20 a night, $15 to $20 a night.
That being said, Gabriel fucking scoped this place.
Yeah, this place was a great place.
American Sniper.
Airbnb though,
like
it wasn't that.
Super.
Was it $12 each Canadian?
Yeah,
so,
13, 39.
So let me elaborate on the numbers for a second for the people who are actually wondering, and the point that I actually want to make. The point is, let's add this up. $1,500 a month to live here for 6 months. That's $9,000 for a year. That's $18,000. How much do you make in Canada, for example? In our jobs, we make at the very lowest 50, 60, 70, 80, 90K.
Yeah,
around there within
70,
that range, right?
80,
50 to 90K, probably 100K maybe on our good years, But let's say you make 50.
Soon.
So you're telling me the expenses to live out here are $18,000 to live like an absolute king out here, and you could go back home and make less than 25K in 6 months. And it's like you could buy yourself an entire year with 6 months. And now imagine if you got a little bit better at earning money. Imagine you could earn 18K in about 3 or 4 months. Now you can buy yourself an entire year just for 3 or 4 months of work of an absolutely amazing life. So now it brings to you, it's like, well, now you actually get to live the life that you wanted to live for extremely cheap. You wouldn't even have to work the full year.
And when you're doing that, the main reason, I think, one of the main reasons why people don't actually do what they want from like a living perspective is they think they have to make a certain amount of money. And that there's sometimes you can get paid too much too early, and you make a certain amount of money and you make your entire living expenses up to that, so you can't make less.
Yeah.
So you can't take a pay cut and make less money to do what you want. And the point which Mohsin is getting at, what we're getting at, is it doesn't necessarily take a lot of money to really live a very liberating, free, traveled lifestyle that you want. And then if you actually spend the time doing what you want and you're patient, over time you'll be able to make enough money. And if you don't, you're already doing it. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and a lot of the personal, not even personal investing, but personal finance, personal development we've done and resources that we've looked at talks about like making money is important, but it's how much you keep.
Yeah.
Right, how much money you keep. And I don't really want to go down too deep on this rabbit hole. We can save that for another podcast. And I think there's a lot of room to talk about financial self-sufficiency on this podcast because, like you said, we basically have unlimited content of things we can talk about.
Yeah.
And I feel really good about the way this has gone.
For sure, man.
And Mohsin went to the bathroom. I only had one other idea I wanted to share.
Yeah.
And one last story that I wanted to share, and maybe you can tell us your perspective from those two, was Mohsin started the Deep House Bangers, as you brought up at
YouTube channel
at the beginning of this episode, where he finds his favorite music, shares it, and then puts a cool visual behind it. And one of the big themes he kept reinforcing to me as he was doing this every day was, my only intention is to get better than I was at this yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And in the first 3 or 4 days, I didn't really see how that was like a revolutionary concept. I was like, okay, cool, man, you do your thing, bro, post your video. But like when it was day 7, 8, 9, 10, I could see how he had learned so much in such a short period of time. And the way it connects was I've had injuries with my body for the last 5 years. Just brief context. I was deadlifting in the gym in 2014 and I injured my shoulder and I injured my stomach and I injured my back and a couple other things. And Iain seen me work on this for years and trying to make progress and trying to work on my joints and trying to get my health together. I thought being in Mexico, I would just I would be able to dial it in. All of a sudden, it would all make sense and it would all fall into place. And my body would be feeling amazing. But I found myself. It was two Monday nights ago on the balcony that we have, and I was finishing the workout program that I was doing, and I was so discouraged with how much pain that I felt in my shoulder and this nervous system connection that I felt going into my hand that I knew that shouldn't have been there. Right before this team meeting, I was like we check in at the beginning of a team meeting saying, where are you on a scale from 1 to 10? I was a 3 or I was a 4. I was literally distraught. I was totally demoralized. I said, the story I was telling myself, and I told you, is like, I'm broken.
Yep.
That was the story I was telling myself. I was laying there, finished the workout. We were just about to start this meeting, and the door opens as I was expressing how I was feeling, which was like totally distraught. And the story I was telling myself was disempowering. I was a victim. I was like, why me? Why do I have to go through this? Gabriel came in, and his particular way of expressing himself through philosophy and metaphors and examples. One of the examples he shared with me was Roger Bannister, which is the first guy that ever did the 4-minute mile for the running. No one thought 4-minute mile was possible.
They thought it was physiologically impossible to run a 4-minute mile. They thought your heart would literally burst before that happened.
So no one thought it was possible. No one did it. But he wasn't just like an average guy. He was actually he got into an accident.
I think he got in some sort of accident when he was a kid, and he was in some sort of coma, and he overheard the doctors say he wasn't going to live, and then he lived, and the doctors said he wasn't going to be able to walk, and he just dragged himself around the yard until he could crawl, and then he did it until he could walk, and then he did it until he could jog, until he could sprint, until he broke the barrier that we thought, the arbitrary barrier of a 4-minute mile. And then after he did that, 20,000 plus other people, way more now, even high school students, had actually broken that. And the point of that story is there are certain limitations that we have set, and then once someone breaks it, it opens the door for everyone else.
It does, and there's the point to bring about this is like, some people will accept that reality like, oh my god, it's actually possible. And the other folks will be like, no, that reality is not possible. And so you need to watch out for that, for those types of people in your life. They literally might be your own parents or siblings or friends. It's like you start living in this reality that is so different from theirs in terms of what they thought was possible and what they thought was even okay or acceptable. Just the same way you posted the other day. You can do what you want to do. Yeah. And it's like, how uncommon is it to actually seeing people doing what they want to be doing?
It's weird.
It's so uncommon, actually.
The question we asked was like, if you ask someone, do you love what you do? For someone to say yes, it's a weird response.
Yeah. Honestly, and exactly, it's like you don't actually hear most people loving what they do or living a life of true joy most of the time. So it's like, now when you break it down into, well, yes, that life is actually possible, it becomes uncommon. For some people, it's never going to be real. For some people, it's so foreign to think that you can actually enjoy your life, and that you can, for example, like the whole like feeling wealthy without needing to own a private jet that has more than 6 seats. Like you probably could be wealthy, feeling wealthy a lot before that. So now you have these preconceived notions anyway. The whole point is you're actually going to have people oppose you. You're going to have a lot of people oppose you in your life and try to tell you that life's this way and that way, because they need to reinforce their own identity and their own ego of what reality is. Because if they don't, part of them is going to die and feel damaged and feel hurt, and they will not feel that pain. They would rather push it onto you as a way of reviving and keeping their ego alive. So you need to be aware of that and learn how to circumvent it.
It's like people saying, like, I don't personally like pineapple on pizza, but the people that are like, pineapple does not belong on pizza because they don't like it. So they want to project it. So they want to project for some weird, and they want to project it and make sure to tell everyone how bad it is to reassure them that they don't like it.
Don't cross the line. Yeah. The only other thing that I can think of, the last two things is Mohsin just mentioned how important it is to have positive people in your life, people that are striving for more, people that want to grow, people that are looking on the bright side of things. Like the two biggest takeaways for me from this month is, number one, how lucky I am that I get to hang out with you guys.
Oh yeah.
I actually had the realization, I mentioned it today to Mohsin, that you mentioned this last night, where you're like, we've spent other than each other, we've spent more time in person with nobody in our lives than we did with Mohsin
in 2020.
Yeah, hey.
And it made me realize that not only do I enjoy it a lot, but that he's actually one of my men.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like, when I think of it in the context of who would you want to go to battle with? If you were to go to battle, who would you want to go to battle with? I would want to go to battle with you guys.
Yes, sir.
Respect, man. Hell yeah.
Respects, dude.
You guys are, you guys have helped me so much in the last month and helped me bring back so much joy into my life. Like, I couldn't have done it without you guys, honestly. And this was such a blessing to be able to come out here and do something like I've never done before, is to hang out for prolonged periods with your friends, with some money in my pocket where I'm not, worrying.
Yeah, we can pull
really.
it.
I can just.
We'll be thinking about this. We'll be thinking about this month forever, man. This is gonna be a wonderfully cherished memory.
December
Strek a moment on a
BC
rooftop,
2020,
thinking
Mexico
about
2020,
BC 2020, Mexico 2020, and then I've had the blast last month, and we're gonna cap it off with Mohsin's last night here.
Yeah.
We're about to go. If you ever go to Playa del Carmen, you must go to El Fogan. You must get a Taco Loco.
We're gonna get a Taco Loco.
We're gonna go get Taco Locos.
Guacamole inside.
Guacamole inside. And we're gonna go do that, boys.
Yep.
All right,
Let's
man.
do it.
Yes, sir.
This turned out better than I could have ever expected.
Signing off
Is this not wild?
on the best month of our lives. Well, my life maybe.
It just keeps getting better.
It gets better.
When you realize that the external circumstances don't dictate how good it is, and it's just the way you look at it.
Yeah,
That's
it doesn't
right.
matter.
Yeah, we're literally doing the thing.
We're doing the thing. We did the thing.
We're living it, man.
We did the thing.
We're practicing
Living the
what
life.
we're preaching.
Signing it off.
Boom.
Be
It's all
it.
good.
Bye.